discuss. This is going to be the agenda. So to start with, I just wanted to give you an overview of different data privacy certifications that is available in the IAPP and why we are going to pick up CIPP and quickly giving you the glimpse of all the different certifications that exist. So we have Certified Information Privacy Professional that deals with the laws and regulations, and that's the one we are going to focus today. And apart from this, we have CIPM, which is Certified Information Privacy Manager. So this is the mid to the leadership level certification that is gonna help you to build the program from scratch in an organization. Very much required in an Indian scenario where we are all embarking our data privacy journey. We have a law in place in 2023. Now we have the rules coming out very slowly. The draft version is out, and probably we're gonna experience a great requirement of resources. There's gonna be a lot of work to be done in this area. CIPT is the only course that is gonna embed the technology and data privacy together. A very interesting course that speaks about embedding privacy into the automation layer technology, as well as in terms of how do you bring the uh, software development lifecycle and privacy together. So that's the course, which is CIPT. A bit technical, and it's a very specific course, I would say. And there is a recognition, we call it as FIP, which is Fellow of Information Privacy. It's a very esteemed recognition where there are few criteria if you complete, and you can get this FIP. Okay. So I'm going to quickly cover in terms of CIPP introduction and coverage. So what you will learn from this course is that you will be going through the European data protection and regulatory institutions. So European data protection law is basically the GDPR and then few associated laws and regulatory requirements. And we're going to discuss the GDPR in detail. And finally, we will also look into the application of GDPR. So these are the three important components what we will study along with international data transfer and other core areas as well. So just to give you a quick walk around in terms of how is this exam, what is this exam about? This exam has around 90 questions. It's a professional certification, so you have 2.5 to hours to crack this exam, and you need to score 300 out of 500. And the scaling of the score is starting from 100. And probably if you see on the screen, it has 75 questions only given a weightage, which means there are 15 questions which are probably a sort of psychometric questions, and so probably you never know what exact questions have been carrying a weightage. So the thumb rule is if you need to score 70% consistently, you will definitely crack this exam. So 70% is the important number you need to remember. So when you purchase this package from us, you get a 1 year validity for your exam voucher. And why I keep saying this to each of my candidates who have joined my training is that if you try to take the same training outside, you're going to almost end up paying the same amount. Okay. So the course, for example, if you're going to buy the exam voucher separately, it's going to cost you $550. And if you pass this exam, you have to pay either $250 as certification maintenance fee or $295 as membership. Either of this you have to take. And either of this option is easily going to take you $800. So with that, I'm going to give you a quick background about privacy and security. A lot of people actually confuse between these two terminologies. Cybersecurity and privacy are closely related domains, but completely different domains. And cybersecurity has been one of the important domain that has gained a lot of momentum last 15 years, and probably it's become a de facto requirement for digital protection. So any data that we handle needs to be protected on internet. We are seeing a lot of scams, a lot of people are being subjected to frauds, there have been hacking and what not, right? So that is the core area of cybersecurity, to protect organization, to protect individuals. We have antivirus in our laptops and mobile phones, correct? So that is the cybersecurity, and data privacy is altogether a little different. Although personal data is a kind of data that can come into the overall umbrella of cybersecurity, but the roots and the requirements of data privacy is little different, right? The major difference is the data privacy that we are discussing part of a course is a legal requirement, which is non-negotiable, which is mandatory. You don't have an option. and it focuses on ensuring individuals' rights are fulfilled, plus you are fulfilling the obligations which are mandated by the law. So, which makes data privacy as a core and non-negotiable requirements for the next 10 to 15 years. So, if you are stepping into this journey, you are on the right track and you have a lot of time to grow in this domain. And this is the domain that can give you a lot of opportunities because it's a combination of process, technology, and it's gonna evolve over a period of time, encompassing AI requirements as well. So there's going to be a lot of work to be done on the data privacy sphere. All right. So what CIPP can help you to gain? CIPP is a global industry standard for privacy. If you appear for any job role stating data privacy, you can check yourself in LinkedIn. You'll definitely see CIPPE is a gold standard in a combination with CIPM, and it has been recognized credential all over the world, not just in India. Any part of the world you go, this is going to be one of the mandatory obligation that's part of almost become a prerequisites, right? And gaining the certification and help you to demonstrate that you have a solid understanding of a data privacy law and you know how to apply this for an organization as well, correct? And as I told you earlier, FIP is a very esteemed title which helps you to be recognized as a leader in this market. So gaining CIPPE along with CIPM or CIPT is going to help you to reach that particular title. And CIPP is a key benchmark among the top employers for hiring data privacy managers and DPO. So before I jump into the study plan and blueprint, so I wanna tell you again in terms of the opportunities in the data privacy domain. I'll come back to the core areas. So regarding the opportunities, there's going to be a huge influx of requirement, and people from India, you should have heard about the data privacy draft laws are out, and it's going to probably be implemented in maybe next 3 to 4 months. That's going to create every single organization in India having a data privacy professional role. It could be in any capacity. It could be a data privacy manager or a DPO. It could be named differently, but every organization handling personal data should be having a designated point of contact. So that opens the door for huge number of requirements in the data privacy function. And this is the charts which is just giving you the opportunity across wide range of domains. You see, compliance lead is going to help you to fulfill the legal regulatory requirements. Implementation, there could be multiple implementation role like tool implementation, automation, right? And even the privacy framework implementation part. Auditing role is going to be very important because there are going to be huge requirements of periodic data audits. Data privacy analyst is probably the starting role along with implementation specialist, and the data privacy risk manager, or we can call them as a DPO, is also gaining a lot of requirement. And whatever you see on the screen, hiring companies are just for giving you some big names. As I told you, every single organization is gonna require a person who can understand data privacy and take care of their obligations. Okay, so that's about the opportunities in data privacy domain. All right. So with that, I'm gonna quickly cover the study plan and the exam blueprint. So study plan, I'm going to keep it very, very simple. Anyone who has joined my training, right? I have given them a very simplistic plan of 4 weeks. And it's basically 3 weeks of our training, which is 3 weekends, and you have total 24 hours of training. And apart from this, I want you to read the textbook, the the participants guide, the additional EDPB guidelines, and the official text, which is the law itself. So all these things can be completed in 3 weeks. I'm going to guide you in terms of how do you do it during the training. And I'm going to suggest you 5 mock exams, which you need to complete in a span of 1 week. And with this, you can definitely crack this exam in 30 days. This is all you need to do. And I've been doing this for the last 3 years, and I have helped more than 300 plus professionals crack this exam. And I'm going to show you something which you see on the screen on the right hand side. This was the a post which I want to share to you to gain your confidence as well. So in the last 1 year, we had 150 professionals cracking this exam from Infosec train. So this is my LinkedIn post. You can go and check this post. I have pasted all the people's name, and they are all happy to be tagged in terms of. So it's a verifiable post. So we are not just boasting numbers for the sake of it, but definitely we have helped professionals to gain this certification. Just 150 plus in last year, which is significantly a number you cannot compare any other training institute. I can definitely vouch for that, because 150 is literally the number of people who have cleared this exam. Okay, it's not about the number of people I have trained. So this is a very big achievement. I'm so happy to share this with you so that you can have the trust whenever you join this training. All right. So, and also I want to quickly give you the glimpses of I'll cover the in terms of the course coverage as well. As I told you, there are three major sections which we have: introduction to the European data protection. This is about the history and European Union institution. So here we have 7 questions minimum and 13 question maximum. And European data protection law and regulation. This is the actual GDPR law, which is going to be the crux of this entire exam. So you're going to get almost 60 to 65% questions from this particular topic, even 70%. And the last section is the application of GDPR. Okay, so many people make few mistakes. These are the things which I can give you from my experience. So thinking that each domain has a sectional cutoff, absolutely no, there is no sectional cutoff. And plus, you also need to know that the section 2 is where the majority of the questions are going to come. So you need to understand the nuances of how do you interpret the legal statements. And trust me, whoever has done the training can vouch for that in my training, that you will not feel that you completed a legal course. So I'm going to give you tons and tons of examples, which is very easy for you to comprehend, as well as related to your day-to-day work and day-to-day life. Okay, so this is the outline and the exam blueprint in terms of the minimum and maximum questions. And these are the 11 modules that we will be covering part of the course. So it starts with data protection law, which is going to describe about the various European laws that intersects with the GDPR plus the European Union institutions. Starting with module 2 and module 7 is the entire GDPR together. And then we also have accountability. Chapter 9, 10, and 11 is a continuation of GDPR related requirements. And module 8 is the application of GDPR. All these are the building blocks of a data privacy career and journey. And anyone who asks me in terms of Jay, which is the first course which I should ideally target for starting my journey in data privacy, any day I will always say CIPP. The reason is whatever you see on the screen is exactly what you need to have a solid foundation. Okay, so that solid foundation only comes when you understand the role of controller processor, and in terms of personal data, the principles, the different data subject rights. You will not find the same stuff in other certification courses, right? And this is very much required for any other courses like CIPM and CIPT as well. So that is the reason I say the best way to start your data privacy journey is to start with CIPPE. All right. And also this chapters and modules are very much is gonna be almost a lookalike in terms of the Indian law as well, right? The topics, whatever you see on the screen, is what you will find in the obligations of the Indian law, right? So if you take any data privacy law in the world, you will have 75% to 80% requirements almost remain the same. The crux of any data privacy law will remain the same. Of course, there will be few deviations in terms of the lawful basis, the number of rights, the penalty, and few obligations could vary. But the delta is small, and the overall coverage has a lot of intersections. So if you study one data privacy law in detail, I can definitely tell you that you will have a confidence to interpret any other data privacy law. And that law should be GDPR, because that is considered as a gold standard in the data privacy domain. And that is the reason I'm recommending you to start with this course, and covering all these basics is going to help you to gain this absolute confidence. Okay. So I'm going to also suggest why Infosec Train. So Infosec Train gives you 24 hours training with the 8 hours LMS in terms of the DPDP Act coverage. And also I've given a 4 hours of mock exam answers as well. So in total, you have 32 hours of content from us. And we are giving you time to ask questions and answer that. You will find during my training, the biggest difference between any other training and my training is that I'll stop at any point you ask a question. You ask 10 questions, I'll answer all your 10 questions, and then I'll move ahead. So that is a way I conduct the training. So I will help you to clarify your doubts and concepts and gain confidence before I jump. I have no plan of covering slides, but rather I ensure the knowledge is gained before we move on to the next topic. And we do a case study approach. There are a lot of case studies which are part of the content itself, and I give a lot of practical examples, and we will be giving you templates and useful resources, part of the materials we share. And I'll give you a dedicated exam strategy session during the last day of the course, and exam prep guidance, and also help you career guidance in terms of how do you launch yourself into the data privacy domain. And I help this for a lot of budding professionals who wants to start their journey, and very seasoned people who are probably changing their domains as well. A lot of people do that when they are trying to take up the data privacy journey. Okay, so what are the important topics which is going to be heavily tested in the exam, and how do you smartly navigate these things? So in terms of exam tips, so there are three types of questions that comes in the exam. Okay, the first type of question is a factual question, which is probably out of the 99 articles we have, there are 40-50 articles which are very important, and the questions are created straightforward from the article requirement. So this is the first type of question, which I call as factual question. The second type of question, which we call it, is a short scenario question. You will be given a 2-3 line of short scenario, and you will be required to answer the question. So the entire 90 question will be a objective type question. There are four answers, and there is only one right answer. There is no select multiple type of answers type of questions. And so in these kind of short scenario questions, you'll be presented a situation for you to think, and basis that you're gonna arrive at the answer. Many a times there could be two answers could be correct. Okay, which means out of the two, you need to choose the best option that applies as a solution to the requirement, or the best answer that fits into the requirement of the law. Okay. The third type of question is a long scenario question. Probably you will be presented with 4 or 5 paragraphs, and that's a complete case. And basis that you will have 4 or 5 questions following it. So just like our comprehension questions, which you used to see in English exams back then. So this is the same style of question, just that you will not find the answers in the paragraph. So the paragraphs are basically could be a data breach situation for a company, could be a company which is indulging in a merger, or a company which is probably starting its data privacy journey. It could be any scenario with a lot of information and facts, and basis that it's going to test your understanding of your GDPR requirements. So these are the three types of questions you will find in the exam. Okay, so during the exam there are 90 questions, and it is divided into two parts, 45 and 45. And so you get ample time to answer all these questions, but sometimes the questions like your long scenario questions are going to eat up a long time. Okay, so you need to smartly fix a mental clock in terms of not taking more than 2 minutes to answer any questions. So you need to practice a lot of questions to gain that control, that you're not spending too much time on one question. That's gonna definitely affect you answering other questions, right? And so during the exam, you will find questions sometimes very tricky, and you will not be able to understand it at the first instance. Probably reading it twice and sometimes flagging the question and coming back to the question has helped a lot of people to crack those exams questions as well. So just keep this point also in mind. And out of the 11 modules you see on the screen, the modules which are from 2 to 11 except module 8 is what I call a section 2. The section 2 carries majority of the weightage of the exam. Okay, so a lot of questions, for example, controller processor, you get some interesting case scenarios to identify whether the company is a controller or a processor or a joint controller or an independent controller, right? So to answer any of these questions, you need to have a crystal clear logic. How do you differentiate between a controller, joint controller, processor, and a independent controller? So these aspects are discussed in the session, where I will give you around 7 to 8 case studies to answer these questions, and then you will understand, especially the territorial scope, which I was referring. You have 8 case studies to understand the territorial applicability of the GDPR law, right? So many a times we have an understanding that we sort of understand how GDPR applies, but it is not the same. Okay, so if I have to give you a simple case for everyone to think, maybe you can answer this question, right? So let's take Mr. Tom is traveling to India, and he's a French citizen. He's coming to India, and probably is going to a five-star hotel in Mumbai. So he's a French citizen and he's coming to India. He's staying in a Taj hotel in Mumbai. And during check-in, he is being asked to provide his identity proof. Will GDPR will be applicable to the Indian hotel, right? So European citizen is traveling to India. He stays in Taj hotel in Mumbai. And when getting the reservation of the hotel, he's been asked to share his passport, okay, as an identity proof. Now, his personal data is being collected by an Indian company. Do you think this Indian company is going to be subjected to GDPR? Actually, the right answer is no. Okay, and there are reasons to it, because extraterritorial scope is when GDPR is applicable to a company in a foreign land, requires some specific criteria, which is targeted goods or services or targeted human monitoring, behavior monitoring. Okay, so unless you fulfill those criteria, GDPR is not going to be applicable, right? So unless you understand this with case studies, you will never be able to get this correctly, because a lot of times we have different perspectives, right? Similarly, when you join my session, you will also understand many people have different perspectives of controller and processor definition itself. Many people think processing personal data is a definition of processor. Actually, that is absolutely not. Okay, likewise, there are a lot of things to understand from scratch, and then you will understand this with examples and case studies, and it will always remain with you as a knowledge gain for your entire data privacy journey. All right. So my way of teaching and guidance is through question and answer. I make you comfortable to ask question. There is nothing called good question, bad question, silly question. I want all of you to ask your question. I answer any question that you have in mind, and give you the confidence to speak your mind whenever you are being challenged in your working environment. So you will get the challenge to answer those questions. Okay. So if you see on the screen, this is the minimum and maximum question that you will be asked. Okay, so section 2 is the actual GDPR. So you can get a maximum 67 questions out of the 90 questions, right? So that is the reason I said section 2 is the most important section,
This
which is
helps.
the module 2 to module 11 except module 8. Yeah. So I discussed about the territorial scope and controller processor identification. That's a very important part. And then we have lawful basis, the principles of GDPR. Okay, and we also have a very important intersection between module 4 and module 5, which is data subject rights and the cross link of data subject rights with the lawful basis. So usually a lot of questions can be created in terms of how the data subject rights are applicable and not applicable based on the lawful basis. So again, that's a very important topic from the examination perspective. Information provision obligation module 6 is a very, very interesting chapter, very small chapter, but this carries the most important understanding perspective, because a lot of people have confusion between the terminologies like privacy notice, privacy policy, and a lot of times it is interchangeably used. Is it really required? Consent and privacy notice are one and the same. Actually, these are the kind of questions people often get confused. Correct. And so information provision obligation chapter clarifies all these things: how to present a privacy notice, what are the requirements of a privacy notice as per GDPR, right? And what situation you need to give, when you need to give. All these aspects are clearly covered in the information provision obligation chapter. Okay, and that chapter gives you the foundation of providing transparent communication. Either it could be when the time data is being collected, or at the time when the data is being processed, and also in terms of a data breach situation, also in terms of data subject rights management. So these are the four situations probably you're gonna interact with the data subject. And module 7 is one of the most important requirement of any data privacy law, because that is about the international data transfer. So international data transfer is a very critical segment, because the moment the data goes out of the country authorities will almost have very minuscule power, or almost nothing in terms of enforcing powers on a foreign entity. Okay, so that is the reason GDPR is very critical about international data transfer, and they have some very important obligation like transfer impact assessment, and some important options and specific requirements under these options to do an international data transfer. So we will be discussing that in detail. And module 8 is about your compliance consideration. This is what I called as application of GDPR. And part of this, there are four sub-components, which is your employee-employer relationship, how employees' data has to be handled within an organization, what are the requirements, the life cycle requirements, the other specific interesting aspects like employee behavior monitoring in terms of surveillance activities, what organization do, correct, BOID schemes, which is mobile device management. All these interesting aspects will be discussed there. And the second core section is about the surveillance, and specifically in terms of the different types of surveillance. And the third is in terms of direct marketing. And the fourth topic is in terms of your recent internet-based technology and their impact on data privacy. Okay, so that is a compliance consideration chapter, module 8. And the the module 9 is security of processing, which is about the technical and organizational measures. Okay, so someone asked me any prerequisite is required. It's not required, because we are going to discuss the security of processing from basic. What controls are there? What are the types of control? Preventive, detective, corrective. And based on the objective, what is what I called out as preventive, detective, and corrective. And based on the nature, again, we have in terms of administrative control, we have technical control, and then we have physical control. So we will discuss these type of controls, and we will be discussing what is a data breach, and how to notify a data breach. What are the interesting nuances of data breach, and components which are usually tested in the exam. All these things we will be discussing. Module 10 is something which is very, very critical for all of you who are aspiring positions in data privacy, because this is what brings out the obligations of controllers and processes in terms of what are the important accountability factors we need to take into consider. For example, maintaining your policies and procedures, maintaining a records of processing activity, in terms of doing a data protection impact assessment, appointing a DPO. So all these major topics are going to be discussed part of the module 10. So there are a lot of confusions between PIA and DPIA, which is privacy impact assessment and data protection impact assessment. So all these things will be discussed in detail during this accountability chapter. And the final chapter is supervision and enforcement, which is about the role of the authorities in terms of European Data Protection Board, the data protection authorities, the penalties, what are the different slabs of penalties, what are the consideration for a penalty, and all these things. Plus, there is a very interesting concept called as lead supervisory authority. Okay, so all these topics will be discussed in detail during the supervision and enforcement. Okay, so this is the overview of the different modules that we will be covering, and during the coverage, we will ensure that all the important topics which are tested in the exam is going to be covered, and you will have absolute clarity, right? It's not about just dumping information. We will ensure that you understand it logically so it remains with you. A lot of candidates who appear for the exam keep saying that to me, that I heard your voice during the exam. Okay, so that's how I ensure that the concept remains with you. All right.